Welcome to the Raj Kotecha Show, the #1 podcast in Dubai. And today's episode is oh so special because we are being joined by the GOAT of Dubai real estate, Tahir Majithia, who sits down with Vic and I to tell us about his whole content journey. But what makes this episode extra special is that Tahir is actually a former client of the creative content agency. So we actually go back even further than his journey with us in social media, right through to his humble beginnings as a second generation real estate guy. Today, though, Tahir sells millions of dollars worth of Dubai real estate through apps like TikTok. And actually, this episode is so impactful, even for us, because he teaches us a few things about how he's applied strategies like the 4 Ps of content. And so Spotify and Apple crew, you know what to do. Hit that 5-star rating and review. That rhymed, I'll take it. Also, YouTube fam, make sure you hit the notification bell, subscribe, like, and leave us a comment. Without any further ado, get your teeth stuck into this incredible episode. Alex, run the title sequence. Welcome to the Raj Kotecha Show, #1 podcast in Dubai, and today's a special one because we're here with friend, frequent collaborator, and former colleague Tahir Majithia. What's up?
What's up, Raj? Thanks for having me on the show.
I've been waiting for this for a long time. Tahir's in the house and Vic's in the house.
Hey. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, can't wait for this one.
Alex is here. He's not got a microphone, but you know, he's just thrown his fingers into the video. Okay, amazing. So let's get into it, Tahir. Many people know, because we've been on each other's Instagram several times, that you're a content creator here in Dubai. I'll give a little bit of a setup, which is, as I mentioned, you're a former client, frequent collaborator still to this day, and you produce content about real estate. But before we get into the success and the blueprint, and in the spirit of transparency and helping others, we're going to talk about things in a lot of detail. Give us a little bit of a background in terms of how you found yourself in the real estate world and kind of the journey up until us meeting.
I mean, real estate has been my background for a very long time. You could say that's something which I've done for the past 20 years. Came to me naturally because my dad was into real estate development back in India. And, I've spent a lot of time with him going on sites and different aspects of development. So that's how it came naturally. And that's how I got into it. I was doing real estate development back in India as well. And then I moved to Dubai a few years back. And stuck to real estate in Dubai as well.
So for a lot of people, they have, things that they use as excuses and things like that in terms of not doing it. You've got a fully fledged family here, working wife, 2 kids, they've got school. You're in one of the industries where, you have to find yourself running up and down the city a lot. And it's very easy for somebody in an industry like yours, especially an industry that can sometimes be cutthroat, to find it difficult to make space to create content. So when did you first start thinking about making content? And I guess that leads to the story of where we met. But what were your inspirations in terms of justifying content and it making sense to you?
I mean, I started thinking of making content, you could say maybe in 2018.
Okay. So pretty recent.
Yeah, about 2000. Yeah, so you could say 2018 is somewhere where I thought, okay, I think maybe this thing. Initially, I myself also didn't believe in it. I said, okay, maybe these kind of videos and this content doesn't really work, whatever. But then I was following a few people, especially, Gary Vee and Spencer. And I was like, just trying to understand what they're doing and what's happening. When I actually understood what's going around, then I took a more deeper dive into content. That was somewhere around 2019 when I was like, okay, I should actually do this. And then I realized that, people are watching, people do see, and it doesn't matter how many followers you have, even if it's 5 people watching, and if out of that 5, one person comes and says, hey, listen, I'm interested in this property, I want to buy, I want to invest. That's it. Okay. So then that's how I said, okay, I should be doing this. And then, COVID happened, and that gave it a boost, especially to me, because I was like, okay, sitting at home, what do we do? So the first thing I did when, the lockdown was, going to happen and, was being announced, I bought a camera and a tripod and a mic, because I was like, okay, at least let me try making some content and doing. And that is the time, just when the restrictions were being, the lockdown was being lifted. That's how, that is the time we met. And that's how he started.
So you mentioned Spencer. We met originally because I was speaking at one of Spencer's events at the Capital Club here in Dubai. And I remember we connected on Instagram.
Yes.
So it's funny because the same way that you say content works for you, it kind of worked for me as well. I was out there making content, doing talks, we connected, and then you saw that we were responsible for Spencer's Machine at the time, and Spencer right now is about to interview like Lewis Howes and Stephen Bartlett, and he's already done, Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, Tony Robbins. So he's really hit like a great royal flush of people in his world. So we know that content works for me, and we know that it worked for Spencer, one of our former clients. What is it about content where you can say it worked for you? Is it sales? Is it top of funnel? And what specific content items have you made that you can say, man, I really couldn't live without making these content items?
I can't just pick out one particular content and say this is the most important thing, Raj. When I started creating content, I thought, okay, maybe, one thing, this will work. This is really important. Whatever I thought was really great piece of content probably didn't really work. And things which I thought that this is really not so important, but I just made it to be like, fillers that, okay, I need to keep putting out some content, and it was basic information that worked really a lot. So I can't really, say this worked, this didn't. What I've learned creating content in the last 2.5 years is you need to, never judge your audience, because you do not know what your audience knows or what they don't know. You need to put out information which is useful, helpful. If you put out genuine information, people appreciate it. And someone might come to you today, someone might come to you after 2 years. Because look, when you put out content that stays on the internet, especially something like, say, a YouTube video, okay, if you put it out, it's there. Someone can see it after maybe 5 years also, and at that time might come to you. So I can't really say this one thing works, but yes, you need to be genuine. What I realize is the content which we created, rather, we never made content to sell something. We always created content to give valuable information to the person watching that piece of content, because end of the day, the person is giving his attention, his time, which is priceless. So I wanted to make sure that when a person watches something, it has to make sense to the person seeing. And that's, somewhere which I feel, yes, I did achieve to a certain extent, that when a person's seen my video, when they meet me or they listen to the podcast or whatever, they say, it was really helpful. And that was my goal. My goal was to make sure I give out the correct information and add value to the person watching my content. So I can't really say that one thing worked.
In real terms, though, did it shorten your deal cycles, or like what other? There's got to have been some business benefits, because you spent big on your content and you worked extremely hard whilst running a family, coronavirus going crazy around the world. Like, you put some serious hours in. It must have spilled down into.
No, look, there's definitely a lot of benefits.
Yeah.
Obviously, the number one benefit was being recognized. It's not that I'm new in the market. I'm there in the market in Dubai market since the last 8-9 years now. But recognition, definitely. Credibility, because people see you, even though they don't know you personally, because they see you on your phone every day, on their phones every day, they are, they connect with you. So obviously that made a lot of difference in people recognizing. When it comes to clients, what happens is, now when clients come to me, they know what I do. They know exactly what my, way of working is, what I've been doing. And so they come more convinced that, okay, yes, we want to buy with you, or we want you to be our advisor. So that obviously helps. Obviously, this overall has definitely helped me getting more number of deals, more number of clients. That goes without saying. But more than anything else, something which really I feel, yes, I feel good about is it has helped a lot of people not to make the wrong decision. That's something which is, which I wanted, my goal was to start when I started that, yes, business obviously everybody wants to do more business. Okay. But more than that, for me, it was, giving the right information to help someone make the right decision. And that is something which I really feel good about, that a lot of times I get, people telling me that, listen, what, I saw your video and it did help me in so-and-so thing.
It's a wonderful point, Vic, because imagine you ask somebody who's building a personal brand, what is the value, monetary or otherwise, of being known as the person who helps somebody avoid a mistake?
Yeah. It's
It really-
almost like something that you can't measure. You don't know what you don't know.
And what's the reciprocal value of that, of being the person who says, I didn't buy from you, but I would have made this mistake had I not watched your video. And although I was already, quite far down the line with another advisor or another real estate person, I was able to take a conversation I learned from you on your YouTube, take it to my advisor. We course corrected and we ended up doing the right thing, even though you didn't see some of the benefit. So it's like a karmic thing we talk about a little bit.
100%. And at that point, it's enough, right? You've done kind of what you want to achieve. But at the same time, although not expected, there are other benefits to that as well. They might not buy with you on this occasion. They might refer you. They might buy you on a different occasion, buy with you on a different occasion. But ultimately, at that point, you can go, okay, my job is done, or my goal for that content or that asset is done. Was there a point for you? Because a lot of people start their content journey and, give up, basically. I'm not getting the results or whatever it is. And we talk about patience a lot and it being a long-term game. What was the point for you that you said, okay, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep creating. I can't stop. Was there a turning point for you, or was it just a compound effect?
I mean, look, first thing is when I started creating content, I did a lot of research and I was learning for a very long time. I mean, I took more than what I should have taken. But eventually it's also like, coming in front of the camera, talking and a lot of things, you're camera shy and stuff like that. So I didn't start for a very long time. But when I got into it, I gave myself, I said, listen, I'm not going to just do this, that I reach X number of followers or I get X number of deals. I said, no, I need to keep doing this. Okay, it's a long process. And that's where a lot of people make a mistake, which I see, that a lot of people get into it and they just stop. Whereas this is something which you cannot stop. Once you start creating content, you have to keep creating content.
Yeah.
You cannot just stop it and then say, okay, now it's going to work on auto mode. No, it is not. You need to keep creating and, putting out different stuff. So when I started, I didn't ever look at an immediate ROI. I always thought of the long term. And I think that was something which really helped me, because I never thought that, I put out this piece of content today. I've not got a single person asking me about it. That was not the point. The point was just to keep on putting. Look, because many times people don't realize that, people are watching. They might not react. There are a lot of people who don't react to my content, but they are still watching, which is okay, which I'm fair, which is fair enough, because I come to know because, okay, maybe, it's someone who I know in real life, might never interact with my content, but when I meet them somewhere and they talk about the video or anything, so I know that, okay, the person's watching. Maybe he's not reacting to it, but he's watching. So you never know who's watching and when they're watching. So you need to just keep on putting. So yeah, of course, in this whole journey, there have been times when I've become sometimes a bit lazy, sometimes, okay, not work catches up and you don't have time and stuff. That obviously you have to manage. That happens. But eventually it's something which once you start creating content and you start seeing the results, then it automatically gets, it's like an addiction.
Yeah.
Then you want to create more and more.
Yeah. Do you think the attention is the addiction or creating the content?
Creating the content, because then when you create something and it starts working, then it becomes even more addictive.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, you want to put out more.
Not everyone's addicted to attention, Vic. Jesus. Barbara Streisand over here. Okay, so I would like to counter one of your points there, which is that once you start, you can't stop. But I feel like, in reality, speaking from my own experience and maybe even speaking on a little bit of your experience, people shouldn't interpret what you just said as you have to be very, very consistent and put content out every week, because you absolutely can take time off.
Yes, that's
if you've got to go, if you've got a holiday or you've got a personal circumstance, or you maybe even just lose interest and enthusiasm for a little bit. Everyone hits a creative wall and needs deep rest to bounce back. True. And the good thing about that is, if you have been consistent, it's almost like cycling, pedaling really, really fast, taking a 20-30 second break from cycling, but the amount of effort you put into pedaling before you stopped keeps the bicycle running, because I'm sure you'll agree that you can take some time out to grab a vacation and the leads still continue to come in.
100%, Raj. What I mean is, when I say stop means you just don't say, okay, from today I'm not going to make anything
Ever again.
Obviously, I mean, that has happened with me also, that I've taken a break for 15 days, 20 days in between where I've not created any content, and what I'd created before is going on. That obviously happens. But, when you are creating content, this is what I've realized, that you need to keep it on. You can't say that from now on I'm not going to put out anything on any of my other channels and automatically people will come to me. No, this is, it's like cycling. You cannot reach a destination, or for that cycle to go on, you have to keep pedaling.
Yeah.
So same way with content, I feel, okay, you have to keep pedaling. Even if you stop pedaling, the cycle will only go to a certain limit on its own.
Yes.
Then you need to start pedaling again.
Yeah. Absolutely. In terms of like, for a new creator, starting this side of, the pandemic, 2022, you started in the mouth of the pandemic, exactly as it began. So we met each other, you and Zeba, shout out to Zeba, your wife, did the 4 Ps of content course. And then as the world was going crazy, you started pumping out your content. At the time, Vic was living in Abu Dhabi, was helping remotely. We had a couple of freelance producers that were plugging in and out from the UK and from the UAE to help with post-production. Tell us about starting that journey in the pandemic. Talk us through arranging a location, your first shoot, being asked to retake 75 times. Like, was there pressure at that point? What was your mindset that allowed you to push through? Because I've seen a lot of people take any one of those circumstances and not commit and not do the level of work that you did. You took all of them and still pushed through. What was going through your mind at that time?
Look, as I said earlier, one was that when I approached you, I had made up my mind that I want to do it, right? And for me as a person, if I decide I want to do it, then I have to do it. Okay.
You brought the conviction already.
I was convinced I wanted to do it. Now all I needed was someone to teach me how to do it. When I came to you, I was like, I wanted to go ahead and start creating content properly. And I wanted to become a creator where I create content in my field. So one, obviously that was the thing. Secondly, what happens is when you do, something professionally, there's always a lot of learning in it, right? So I still remember, and I tell this to a lot of people who I meet, and when they start discussing about content, that my first video with you, which was around 6.5 minutes long, took me over 3 hours to record. And I still remember the number of times you made me read it, and I was like literally cursing you in my head. but eventually, today I see a lot of people creating content, but they are just creating content without learning how to create content. And I don't want to name anyone, but I know a lot of people who you also probably know. They try to create content, but they are not able to do it because they've not gone through the whole process. They don't understand that it's not about just putting out a video. It's about putting out proper information in an organized manner. So when I did my first video, which was price per square foot, I still remember that was the first video I recorded with you, which is around 6.5 minutes. I was really exhausted after doing that one video because I'm sure, I think it took over 3 hours.
Yeah.
Today, when I shoot something, and I don't think that video has got like too many views or anything, but still as a content, it's good information put out correctly. But today when I create a video, sometimes it happens that I walk into a place, a location, and in 15 minutes, I shoot probably 4 pieces of content or 5 pieces of content, quick, fast, effective. But that I'm able to do that today because I've learned it the hard way, how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah, it's definitely concentrated, because one thing that I try to do when I produce clients in person is try and give you a couple of decades worth of me doing it in a short period of time. And that means, unfortunately, we have to retake several times, because each time you retake, you're making up for a year of me doing it. I wonder though, as a competitive person, as an entrepreneur, did you think that now was the time to commit to content? We're talking about the year of 2020, because as the market was going down and confidence was going out, you were like, well, everybody else is going to be like down, down, down. Now's the time for me to go in. When the rest of the market was doing a zig, you were like, I'm going to do a zag, because you kind of flew in the face and invested at a time where the whole market was retracting. Look, and you went in.
Yes, the thing is, the reason I went in, and so the two things. One, as I said, I wanted to do it. Secondly, when the lockdown was happening, work from home and all, I found myself having too much time. So I said, I have a lot of time to create this, to do this properly. And there were a lot of things in my head which I wanted to put out content. And I saw that what happened is I realized that everybody is putting out video walkthroughs of properties. Properties are there today and gone tomorrow. But the fundamentals, the basics of real estate remain the same. So that's where I wanted to, put out that kind of content which nobody else is putting out. Secondly, what I, answering your question that, why I went all in at that time is, so just before I met you, I was just putting up some videos on my Instagram and not doing it professionally, but just, and not consistently. But I did end up getting a sale through a social media lead. Okay. And when I got that, I decided, listen, this deal has happened through social media. I said, whatever money I make out of it, I'm going to put all in.
Okay.
Yeah. And see what I get out.
Yeah.
So for me, I was decided that I'm going to spend all this money in my social media. If I come to a point that when I've spent everything in and I'm not getting anything, I'll see what I do that then. But I was like, I want to keep on going till at least I don't exhaust that amount of money. So I kept certain funds aside saying, listen, let's do this. Right. And I just went on and on and on. And when I started seeing the benefit, it was like no stopping.
I like the point you made as well about everybody was doing walkthroughs, but nobody was talking about the fundamental things. And that's like when everybody's talking about a property that's here today, gone tomorrow, you were talking about content that was here today and here tomorrow. And so we talk about evergreen content, making content that will last a long time. But I guess on the other side of that, one thing that we don't talk about that we probably should is when you assess a piece of content, you should assess it on a scale whereby on one side you've got evergreen, and on the other side you've got perishable. And so if a piece of content's perishable, i.e. you put out a video for a apartment, but once the apartment's gone, it's gone. And then the selling of that apartment essentially renders that video useless.
Yes.
Because even if it comes back on the market 3 years later, the same video can't be used to resell.
True.
That is, might have a different talent, might have a different agent.
Sure.
So that perishability point is a very, very good point. Something that we should probably talk about more on the 4 P's of content is that we should say, look, think about your content in terms of where it fits on this line, because that could ultimately dictate how much time or investment you want to put into it.
Yeah, it really comes down to where does it sit on that scale? How much, like, what do you want to get out of that piece of content based on that scale, and how much resources, time, money you want to put into it? Yeah, that's a really important point. And I think with you, again, we started off thinking about the evergreen content,
yes,
the fundamentals. I mean, you came to us with that as well, and I think that was the important kind of grounding for you to say, okay,
because
let's create this.
The reason, when we sat down and we decided, for me, one was that I wanted to create content on topics which people ask very frequently, like the frequently asked questions and stuff like that, and the fundamentals, because there are a lot of people, especially when it comes to Dubai real estate, what I've seen is there's a lot of misinformation. There's no correct information. People get misguided. People hear things, and they say, oh, I've heard this cannot be done, that cannot be done, this can't happen, stuff like that. So I was like, we need to put out content which clears a lot of doubts for people. So one was that. And, a certain piece of content which we've created even till date, I get people asking me, for example, we made the video for ROI calculator. That was probably the second video which we, created. And till date, at least minimum once a week, I have at least 1 or 2 emails in my mailbox asking me for the ROI calculator.
Amazing.
So, that's something which is really helpful. Now, that is now the way you calculate ROI has remained the same throughout years. That doesn't change. How you calculate ROI, the numbers can change, but the formula remains the same. So, and I'm still sending it to people, and people like it. So that's that has been really helpful. Whereas I am when I see other people putting out content, it's more towards just sales.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that video as well, as you quite rightly said, it's
Just
not
break
your-
down that video before you go into what it is. Like, just explain to folks what the ROI calculator video was.
I'll let you do that. The RO calculator is the return on investment on buying a property.
Yes.
So whether that be capital appreciation or rental yield.
I
Rental
guess the
yield,
hook is that
right?
we explained ROI in
What
however which
ROI
way it
is.
exists.
Yeah, so
but we
basically-
said if you
yeah.
want to calculate ROI
Yeah, so
yourself,
in
use
that-
my spreadsheet.
Exactly. So what we did was we created a video where we explained how you calculate ROI, and I made a template on Excel where I put it out, as a free ROI calculator. So whoever wants, they just send me an email and I send them a copy of it.
Yeah.
So that was the whole thing. And to be very, surprisingly, and that credit goes to you. This is something which again I thought was, how to calculate ROI might not be a very interesting topic, but you insisted and we made, and you put this ROI calculator in the end, which I was like, okay, I don't know if people are going to actually ask for it. And I was really surprised that yes, still they keep asking me about that free template.
Yeah.
Well, and again, what's interesting about that video, it's not your highest viewed, as you
Yes.
said, but it's probably one of the most engaged.
Most engaged, most call to action, I would say,
Yeah.
because people are then taking the effort of taking my email address, typing an email and asking me for that.
And then you
calculator.
also capture some data around that as well.
Yes.
It's funny, again, I love these conversations with like people we work with, because as much as I've been the creator of this, I've never had a chance to reflect on it until when we sit, we talk about deals and initiatives and stuff. We don't often spend this much time reflecting. It's almost like a therapy session. But to your point there, Vic, about the manual, I think Tahir, you said people have to take your email address, send you an email. That thing is counterintuitive to what the marketing world tells you. The marketing world tells you one click, frictionless, because they want to get in volume. But actually, by creating friction, by making it a manual process, which is go to my description, get my email address, copy it, paste it inside your email client, write me an original email to say, I saw this video, please send me your ROI calculator. Not only are you physically writing words, but you've got to be humble enough to ask somebody for something that they're offering.
Yeah,
and actually that means that psychologically you've got a much warmer lead.
Yeah.
Because
Yes,
the
definitely.
journey and the investment was much higher for them to make contact with you.
Definitely. I'll tell you what, see, there's, what happens is, and going back to your question, which you asked me first, that how has content helped me, right? Many times it happens that you cannot see a direct relation between the content and your closure of a deal, but there's a lot of indirect help which it gives. For instance, I've had deals where I've sold property to people even without meeting them, even without having a conversation on the phone, just on WhatsApp. Okay, I was myself shocked that the person's bought a property off me even without speaking to me over the phone, just over a WhatsApp conversation. And obviously I've met them eventually, and some people have bought offline properties with me, and I met them actually when they were taking the keys for the house. So this is also because of a lot of indirect effect of the content, because they've been seeing me constantly on their phones, on the computer, whatever, on different mediums where they're consuming the content.
Yeah.
Talking of mediums, you started off on YouTube,
Yes.
Instagram with us, and then you moved yourself over to TikTok as well.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the effects of the shorter form content that you started creating across the different platforms?
Shorter form content definitely is something which is, worldwide being consumed a lot. And that was the reason, I started creating a lot of short content as well. But having said that, I feel, all types of content work. Whether it's a podcast, whether it's something on Instagram, whether it's a picture on Instagram or a story or a reel or a video on TikTok or a long form video on YouTube or it's YouTube Shorts. I mean, one thing I've realized that you cannot say that this platform works, this doesn't. All platforms work. All platforms work. and you need to be there on all platforms. Yes, sometimes it happens that you're not really good at some particular type of content, but that's okay. End of the day, what matters is just being there so that people, because lot of time what happens is, this is what I've realized from my personal experience, that someone might see you on TikTok and then later on go on to Instagram and follow you, or maybe they see you on TikTok and then probably search up and they land up on your YouTube page, or the other way around. They see you on YouTube and then they go on Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn and search, and so it's very important to be present on all platforms.
Yeah, I think what's also important with that is going where your audience is.
Yes.
So for you, your audience sits on all of those platforms.
Yes.
But TikTok would be counterintuitive. When you did it,
Right.
TikTok was, a lot of people saw it as an entertainment platform.
Right.
It was about dancing. It was about virality. It was about younger people. So let's get into some of the numbers. How much money have you made on social media? Obviously, I'm being facetious, but what I mean is, like, you've told us some stories that even blew our minds as the producers about multi-millions of dollars worth of transactions happening as a result of TikTok. When people say TikTok is about teenagers, young audiences, dancing, memes, things of that nature, conspiracy theories, can you talk us through the opposite of that, how your reality has been? What steps are taken by whom that leads from an audience member consuming your content to a transaction being registered with Dubai Land Registry?
So first, I would like to say one thing. If when people say that TikTok is all about the younger audience and more about not really the older matured audience, well, the younger generation is where the money is, to be honest. Okay, the young millennials, the younger generation, the amount of money they're spending, you cannot compare it to what people in their 50s and 60s are spending.
Wow.
Okay, so people should really understand that the new generation wealth and the young millionaires and the billionaires, the younger generation, that's where the money is today, and that's where you need to grab their attention. Now, answering your question that the pattern of how the whole journey works. Look, when on social media, when you're doing when you're creating so much content, what happens is, and I'm talking about my personal experience, I obviously get inquiries from all the mediums. Someone's seen on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, sometimes on LinkedIn, whichever platform they're watching. Lot of times it happens that they watch on one platform, from there they jump onto the other, and then probably maybe even the third, and then they send you an inquiry. Sometimes it's instant. They see a piece of content, they really like it, and they want to make an instant inquiry. Sometimes it's that they're watching since a very long time. They've been following you for a long time, and then when they actually need something, that's the time they call you or they get in touch with you. Again, it's very difficult to say where exactly they come from, because as I said, they jump on. Okay, someone watches a video on YouTube, then goes on to Instagram or TikTok, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to establish whether it's a direct or indirect, call. Also, at the same time, what happens is many times you see people, when they see something, they share it with their friends or family, thinking, okay, it might be useful. It's like how you're watching something on Instagram. If I find something nice, I'm going to forward it. Maybe I forward it to you if I feel you're interested. If I feel my wife's interested in something, I might forward to her.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people share your content, and then you have people asking you, because I've had clients who I've met, one of my friends told me about you. I said, okay, maybe who's the friend? And if he says, I don't know the person, because that particular friend has never interacted with me. Okay, so the advantage of
Never interacted with you on social media.
Never attracted to me on social media, or has never contacted me for a property or anything.
Yeah.
So, when you're creating content, it's you never know when who will approach. Okay, and it has happened so many times that people have just met me at I'm out for dinner or anywhere outside, and they just come and talk to me that, I see your videos on TikTok or YouTube or whichever platform they're watching, and they introduce themselves, and that conversation leads to something totally different.
But how did you sell a $2 million property in Dubai on TikTok?
Well, I mean, there have been multiple instances where people have seen the video, they've directly contacted me, or sometimes their kids have contacted me that I want you to speak to my dad or mom, we're looking for a property, and that's how the interaction starts. And then obviously, your sales process is your sales process, which you have to do. You cannot, just close a deal just because you've made a video. You need to follow up. You need to constantly, work for the client, give them options, show them different things, and then probably they would buy.
So it's interesting because we're now talking about proxy marketing, which is that it's very difficult to get to somebody who's a decision maker or who's got a big budget. But one person that's always got access to her or him is their kids.
Yes.
And so if you're on a platform where their kids can then, as you rightly said, forward a TikTok video and be like, hey, mom and dad, you guys were mentioning wanting to buy a villa. I'm following this guy. He's just taught me a lot about villas. Already you're in their good books because you've almost got an endorsement from their child. And it doesn't mean that it's a financial endorsement. It's much more emotional and empathetic,
Yes.
Yes. It's like, if this person's teaching my kid something about real estate, clearly he didn't make it for my kid, but the kid is here benefiting from it. It builds positive sentiment.
Absolutely.
100%. And you know what's interesting about that is you don't know what your content is doing.
Yeah.
Is really interesting because as long as you're putting out valuable content that's thoughtful and educational based on what you need it to do, your content is out there. You just don't know what it's doing. It could be doing great things for you. I mean, it could not be, but
yeah,
it could very well be doing great things for you. And
absolutely.
You just don't know it.
Absolutely. Also, what happens is a lot of time people Vic, what happens is I've also realized that the content I put out is not only consumed by people who are interested in properties, but also within the industry, I see a lot of people consuming the content and asking me, if they know me or whatever, that, if they have any questions or anything. So I see a lot of agents also approaching me, I saw this, can you tell me where it is or what it is? And multiple questions. So it's also gives you a lot of credibility within the market, within the industry you are. So that's also something which I've realized that has really, been beneficial. And what happens is, there's no direct ROI of this, but there's a lot of indirect ROI that because today if I need something and if I need to source a property from the market, obviously when I call an agent and he knows me because of social media, he takes me much more seriously than
they're more likely to pick up the phone.
They're more likely to pick up the phone and answer back.
Yeah.
Let's talk about direct ROI and indirect ROI for a second. One thing that you've always impressed me with as a client is you've always opted for building brand over building sales. And there's lots of instances whereby, as you mentioned on this podcast, you can sell without necessarily knowing where it's come from. In the past, when I've asked you which platforms are performing for you, you said to me, I don't know. In many ways, you don't care. You just know that from the mass body of TikTok, YouTube, Instagram content that you're putting out, LinkedIn content that you're putting out, that somewhere in there it's starting. You've always held a long-term view on that. You've never decided over time, like larger brands do or that people do once they've spent a certain amount of money with an agency, that I now need to start knowing what's performing for me so that I can quote unquote optimize. How have you managed to keep that long-term view of I don't know where it's coming from, I just know that it's coming?
Look, Raj, one thing is very clear. When I started, creating content or building my brand, I was not here to just do sales. I'm here to build my brand, right? Because if I have my brand, I can sell anything. But if I just sell, then I don't have a brand. Okay? So I'm here to create my own brand. It could be that I venture out into something else tomorrow. Okay? Real estate will always be there. But if I'm doing something else, my brand speaks for itself. But if I'm just here to sell and see direct ROI, I will never grow. So my goal was very clear. The goal was brand building. People today associate Tahir with an expert in the real estate. They know that when I speak something, when I say something, I know what I'm talking about. It's not just, the regular sales pitch that 90% of people in the market give. It's real value. Okay. And that value or, whatever content I can put out, it's because of my experience, because of me doing this since last 20 years, right? So it's always been about building the brand. It's never been about the sale.
And on the opposite side of that, one thing that I remember we were walking somewhere, you and I. We were on location somewhere for a shoot. And I remember it was probably one of the, maybe you might have mentioned one person recognized you before, but this person would have been we would have been in the first half dozen instances of Tahir being recognized in the real world. And I remember someone said, "Hey, what's up, Tahir?" And you were like, "Hey, what's up?" And I was like, "Tahir, I know that we're like on a mission and we've got stuff to do, but that's the moment you want to double down on."
True.
Where someone sees you in the real world. And now you're much more used to being recognized in the real world by people. Please tell us the story about the 2 Saudi guys that came to buy a property from you and made you take your mask down in the middle of COVID. We'll get into that in a second. But I want to talk about that feeling, because a lot of people, either they're not necessarily used to it, like you weren't the first time, or they're a little bit too cool for it and they try and palm it off as something that's like no big deal. But how does that feel? And also tell us the story of the 2 Saudi guys. This is my favorite story. It's the moment where I was like, we've done good by this client.
No, so obviously, look, getting recognized always feels good. There's no denial in that. At the same time, me as a person, I'm quite shy that way. So I was initially not used to it. But then I realized, okay, people, when what happens is when they see you on a phone and when they see you in real life, it's there's like this thing, oh, I met this person in real also. It's not just on the phone. So obviously I realized that, and I remember the incident, what you're talking about. And after that day, I actually made it a point when someone recognizes me, I at least, speak to them, ask them what they do, whatever, just to know more about them, because that also gives me an idea of people who are watching my content. So that's there. And I mean this happened. I had 2 people from Saudi come, and one of the persons had approached me, and he was with his friend, and so I went them to pick up at the hotel. And when I reached, I was sitting in my car, I was just waiting for them to come. And so the guy just walked up to me, said hi, whatever. We were talking, he was waiting for his friend. His friend comes in, and he sees me. I was wearing a mask, and he just asked me, could you put your mask down? I said, yeah. And he's like, oh, you're Tahir, I see your videos, I know you. And I was like, okay, thank you very much. So that really feels nice, because look, it's for a lot of people, people think that it's very easy, but creating content, and if you're doing it regularly, it's not so easy. There's a lot of, after a certain point, starting to create content is easy, but to keep on doing it is the more difficult part. And that's where, when you put in efforts, you're creating constantly, and people watch and they appreciate. That's really, that feels really good.
Nice.
You started this journey, you mentioned earlier, with conviction, right? You said, I'm going to do this because I've seen some results, or a result, and I want to double down, and I'm going to do it for the long term, so on and so forth. So conviction is one thing.
Yeah.
The want and the need to do it is another. But you also said that you put some financial sort of planning in place that allows you to have a runway of making content.
Yes.
So you did a deal, you said, right, I'm going to flip this and put it into content. Not taking away from the hard work and anything like that, but you had the finances to back it. Now, there's a lot of people that can have the conviction but not the finances. What would you say to them?
No, look, but see, when I got the finances, I accelerated it. Okay. It was not that just because of that, I was creating, I was not really creating, but I was still doing stuff.
You're putting stuff up.
I was putting stuff out. I was trying to, put in effort and trying to understand. Obviously, when I got, funds, I expanded. Okay. Not that I didn't have funds before to do it. I could have done it, but that gave me a little more of a, what do you say? It's like more of a moral booster that you see, oh, this is working. It's not that I couldn't have invested that money before. I could have, but then I was not certain, right? So it's like, when you're not really certain about it, you feel, okay, you're a little skeptical on investing money in that, because then you would put money in traditional marketing, which is normal lead generation and stuff like that. Because there you then, talk about direct ROI. Okay, I'm spending 10,000 dirhams on a campaign. I should get at least 50 leads. I should close at least 2 deals. I should make so much money. That's the traditional way where everyone's doing. And what happens is that 10,000 dirhams put in is fine. It'll give you lead and immediate ROI, but that's it. Okay, what after that? Whereas if you create content And if you keep creating content and you put that same amount of money into that, that content stays and a person can watch after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever time, and still come to you. So, that's where I thought, okay, this is a long-term game. And the only thing was that deal gave me a lot of motivation, and it gave me more confidence that, okay, yes, this works, right? Because it's like, it's if, for example, it's a very simple thing. If you're not feeling well and you go to the doctor gives you medicine, you'll have 1 tablet, 2 tablets. But if you don't feel better, probably you might be thinking that this is not working, okay, and you stop. So there, that deal was basically kind of, motivation which said, look, this works and this will keep on working if you keep on doing it properly.
Have you changed the split of your investment from the traditional to content? Like, how is that? Because pre-content, you were doing traditional marketing,
yes,
getting your leads, etc., and then you started to see some success and so on and so forth. Like, how have you approached?
So
what is traditional marketing in that sense?
So you do listings.
Yes.
You pay for listings. You get leads from those
social
leads.
media marketing and stuff like that. So,
and then from those leads, you kind of sift through them. And
so
you find
as we speak, as we record, my spend on traditional marketing is probably 10%
of your overall investment into marketing.
Yes, I barely do any listings
what was
now.
It before?
It was a good amount of money I was investing.
What, 50, 80, 90?
You could say about in percentage wise, you could say close to 70-80% of my marketing budget was in the traditional marketing, which is probably listings, running ads and lead generation campaigns. But as of now, I'm not doing anything. Very few listings. That too, I just have because sometimes if you want to, rent a property for a client or something like that, I use it. Otherwise, generating new clients, 90% of my business is either referrals or social media.
Wow.
Yeah.
We started talking 2 years ago.
Yes.
Just before the pandemic hit. And you obviously did the 4-piece course and then you got to work. And if I said to you now, taking everything you've learned, go from the same starting point that Tahir was in 2 years ago, but get there in a year, where would you focus?
Well, it's very difficult to answer where I would focus, but I would focus on creating more content faster.
You'd focus on volume.
Volume. I would focus on volume.
Why?
Look, because what happens is volume gives you the reach. You put out one piece of content in, say, 7 days, and you put out one piece of content out every day. Even if it's not the best, that one piece every day makes a lot of difference. Because then people see you constantly.
So you're talking about a game, what we have described in the past as just being front of mind. They're not thinking front of mind plus highest quality.
Yes.
Front of mind isn't necessarily a quality game.
True.
It's enhanced by good quality.
Yes.
What about in terms of formats like long form, short form, audio, video, or particular platforms?
Everything is needed. You can't just rely on one platform. Because look, again, these platforms, sometimes they go up, they go down. Okay, and new platforms come in. So you need to keep yourself constantly in the game that you are there. You can't just think that, this platform will always work. Because end of the day, what if for any reason that platform dies? People are not watching or seeing. You need to have other platforms as well.
And for people that are either too blocked about committing to making content to enhance their personal or professional life, or they're too skeptical, what advice would you give them?
I mean, look, it's end of the day, it's business, right? I'm building my brand because I run my own business. It's for me. I'm not creating it for anyone else. It's for me. Okay. Same way, if you are putting in X amount of hours, money into building a company or whatever business you're building, it's a part of it. It's a part of marketing. What is brand building? Brand building is marketing, right? So if I'm creating content, I'm building my brand. I'm doing it for my own self. It's my own business, right? So I take it as a part of my work. I don't take it as this is something which is something extra. No, people don't take it seriously. That's the problem. If you take it seriously, if you consider that this is your marketing, right, for your business, whatever business that might be, obviously things change.
Recently, a few months ago, you did a in-person event. So you and your wife hosted this cool brunch in a amazing location in the city. You invited a bunch of different people, business people, retailers, artists, different things like that. And that really made the Tahir Majithia brand like really come alive and become something that we could see in the real world. Moving forward, in terms of building your brand, what else will you be plugging in to add to the Tahir Majithia brand? Will it be, can we expect more events? Can we expect other touch points?
Okay, so for that, definitely getting into the metaverse.
That's something.
That is something
I
which
didn't
is
want to let out the bag. Yeah.
So that is something
I'll
which
see if
is
you give it to us. So
very much.
explain the metaverse for people that are still, they've only heard it a couple of times, and what role could you play in it?
Look, I'm also very new to it, so I'm still learning. As I said, been now learning since past 3 months. I'm still learning, and but definitely that's the future, the Web 3.0. So I feel, for example, if you see on social media, people who jumped in early back in the day, obviously they've reached a certain milestone. So when it comes to the metaverse, again, it's very new. We still have to. It's still a few years where people get used to it, but I feel that's definitely happening. Virtual reality, augmented reality is sooner or later going to become a part of our lives. When the mobile phones came out, I still remember the first time me holding a mobile phone. I was probably, I think, 13 or 14 maybe, or 12, when my dad got it, and that was the first time I saw a mobile phone, and I was like, okay, this is different. And that time a mobile was only used to make calls, and today we use a phone. If you go into your usage, that what have you used the phone for most, I believe making calls will be the least. You use it for all the other things apart the calling. You do, of course, use it for calling as well, but if you see your app usage on your phone today, it's different. Same way, I feel, in the future, we're going to spend a lot more time virtually, because today, if say 5 years, 6 years back, if someone said we'll do a Zoom call or a seminar on Zoom or an event virtually, people would have said, no. But now that's changing, right? So obviously, when we talk about the metaverse, it's still too new. But if you see the trend, if you see all, major companies around the world, they're entering the space. So obviously, eventually everyone will have to.
Nice.
What about your content? Where do you see that evolving?
With regards to my content, I'm going to be, one is definitely I'm going to be, putting out, now there'll be the 2.0 version 2.0 of my content coming out soon, where it'll be even more deep dive into things, especially when it comes to development and building your own property in Dubai. So that's something which a lot of people are still not really aware of how to do and what to do. So I've just finished a podcast on that, so that'll be coming out soon. And also going forward, you will also see a lot of content related to building in the metaverse as well.
Amazing.
Superb.
I have another quick question. Sorry.
Yeah.
What's the most unexpected kind of success that you've had from your content? Not in terms of like a sale or anything, but the content that you've actually produced. Because I was looking at your kind of highest viewed.
So this is really funny, and I was shooting a property, which was in the address Skyview, and I just thought of something which is actually a fact. Not it is a fun fact that that sometimes a property which has a good view of the Burj Khalifa can be more expensive than a property inside the Burj Khalifa. So I just made a small video. It's, I think, 18 seconds or so. Yeah. And that video just blew up. If I calculate across platforms, it's got over 5 million views.
Wow.
And I was myself shocked.
Is that your highest viewed across all platforms?
It's my highest viewed video ever. The thing is, and so it got about, close to 3.5 million views on Instagram, and I'm not too sure how much on TikTok. But the funny part was someone, took that video and reposted it on their reels on Instagram, and that person also got about 3 million views for that.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean that is the thing. But it was just made, with no. It was very instant.
Yeah.
Okay, I was shooting this one apartment, and I was like, okay, fine, let's just make this,
And
short
you
video.
did that all like just off your own kind of instinct.
Yeah, just instinct. I was like, okay, like a fun fact, So I just started the video saying, "Did you know?" And I just said that, "Did you know that it's cheaper to buy an apartment? That it's an apartment facing the Burj Khalifa with so and so thing is more expensive than inside." So yeah,
That's amazing. 5 million views across all platforms.
I've got a final curveball question.
yeah.
Since you started working with us, if you add up all of your followers, we don't focus too much on quantitative, but if you add up all of your followers when you started, and you look at your total followers now across all platforms, you're probably up about 25x, about 25 times.
Yes.
What advice have you got for me? Because I haven't gone up 25 times.
That's amazing.
Because
it's
I
simple,
spend so
because-
much time producing people that I do very little of my own content until recently.
That's simple. I think all you need to do is just book in a 4-piece class with me.
Yeah.
And probably I'll tell you what to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
No, but jokes apart, it's simple. You just need to put out content consistently.
Yeah.
Which obviously you've not been able to do because you're creating content for others.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to be putting it out. I mean, I've seen the growth in the last couple of weeks. My Instagram followers are up 10%, so I'm quite happy about that, and I think it'll probably continue on that way. I still remember when you were at those numbers.
Yes.
But as I shift my focus back into making my own content, for you, it's just you believe it's just consistency, right?
Consistency.
I believe so too as well. It's just that I've got so much backlog of content, and my real life at the moment is doing parties, hanging out with a sports guy, hanging out with a business person, going on a video shoot, writing a script. So at the moment, the content is a reflection of what's really going on in my life. But I think as more of those things in the real world start to become more focused, less speculative stuff, then I think people are going to see a little bit more constant stuff. Good note to self. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying having something to post every day.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I don't think people realize actually what goes on in the real world.
True.
And actually what we're doing is we're kind of, what's the right word? We're basically, eating our own dog food? Is that
Practicing
what you preach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always
you
say
need
that
to,
I
you
get
need
it
to.
wrong.
Yeah. That's the whole point of the Raj Kotecha show.
We're effectively doing the 4Ps on ourselves.
Yes.
That's the idea now.
Yeah.
It's like we've been doing it for clients for so long. It's like we're going to start or continue to do it on ourselves at scale.
Yeah.
And you'll see that now. That's a reflection of the
That's
kind
nice.
of content going out.
That's nice. And just so that the audience knows what 4Ps is. I had this
Plan, produce, publish, promote. Yeah.
Because they should know.
Yeah, that's going to be our whole focus. I mean, depending on when you're listening to this, you'll either be able to get a 4-piece course from us, which is a 1-day workshop. You can get it in person, or, by the time we get to the middle of 2022, you'll also be able to download all the course materials and learn at your own pace.
Nice.
And then get some one-on-one tailored tuition as well. Tahir,
Great.
it goes without saying that you have far surpassed so many of our other clients.
Thanks.
You've far surpassed our expectations and your own, both from a skill point of view and from a business results point of view and from a quantitative point of view. So, on behalf of us and the agency, congratulations on all your hard work.
Raj.
You've done incredibly well.
Thanks a lot.
Your work ethic is unmatched, and you deserve all your success. And what we'll do is, I'm sure we'll have you on future episodes where we talk about the metaverse and other forms of digital real estate.
Yes.
And it would be great to have you in those conversations. But I'm glad that we got some time today to just literally go through the story.
No, glad to be here,
And
Raj.
for me as well, there's 3 or 4 ways that, having had this conversation, that we can reframe it. Because typically, for those who don't know and who are not in the room, about an hour before a shoot with Tahir, we would sit, kick it, have some coffee. We might even get a bit of food. And it's at that point that in these conversations, I would come up with these conclusions and these analogies and these metaphors. And today you've literally seen me come up with 2 or 3 of them. Well, in without microphones, I normally look at Vic and be like, it's a good point. We should frame stuff that way.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that we got to capture those moments today. So thanks so much, Tahir.
Thanks, man.
Amazing job, dude.
Thanks, Vic.
For those of you listening on Apple Podcast and Spotify, both have the option of a 5-star rating, so make sure you give it to us, as well as a review on Apple Podcast. YouTube crew, hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and of course, wherever you're consuming this content, please do me a favor, share it with people, because in in the interest of just being good dudes and being transparent about everything that we know, if there are other people in any parts of the world that can benefit from this conversation with Tahir Majithia, at Tahir Majithia on all platforms, then go ahead and share it with them. Thanks so much for listening. I'll speak to you on the next episode. Peace.